Our passage this morning comes from Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verses 1 through 9. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on humankind. A person to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all that he desires, yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity. It is a grievous evil. If a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with life's good things, and he also has no burial. I say that a stillborn child is better off than he, for it comes in vanity and goes in darkness, and in darkness its name is covered. Moreover, it has not seen the sun or known anything, yet it finds rest rather than he. Even though he should live 1,000 years twice over, yet enjoy no good thing, do not all go to the one place? All the toil of a person is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. For what advantage has the wise man over the fool, and what does the poor man have who knows how to conduct himself before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the appetite. This is also vanity, and a striving after wind. This is the word of the Lord. So how many of you have seen the movie A Christmas Story? I think most of us in the room. There's this great scene right in the middle of the movie, very, very funny, where the main character, Ralphie, he's a 9-year-old boy, he gets in the mail this item he's been waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks. It is his Little Orphan Annie secret decoder ring. And it comes with a certificate saying he is now officially a member of the Little Orphan Annie Secret Society. And that evening, he and his family are sitting around the radio. This is in the days before television. They're sitting around the radio, and little Ralphie's you could just see he's just anxious to get to the end of the episode. And finally, it comes, and he's ready. And the announcer comes on the radio and says, "All right, kids, it's time for tonight's secret message. Remember, only members of Little Orphan Annie's Secret Society with their special decoder rings can decipher the message. Annie is counting on you." And then he starts into the message. H23, B19, and on and on and on and on. And Ralph's copying the message. And as soon as it's over, he tears off through the house, goes upstairs, into the bathroom, slams the door, locks it. And he sits down with his little paper and his pencil and his decoder ring, and he starts deciphering the message. B, E, S, right? And soon tensions start mounting because his little brother comes in, Ralph, I gotta go pee. Just a minute. And okay, he's still going. And then Mom chimes in, Ralph, what are you doing in there? God, gee whiz, Mom, give me a minute, will ya? And he's going, and he's like sweating because he's so nervous. And the narrator chimes in, and the narrator is Ralph, all grown up, and he's telling the story of this Christmas year. He comes in and goes, "My mind was a steel trap. The fate of the world could hang in the balance. What is it, Annie? What's the message?" And he finally finishes, and he holds up his paper, and he reads it out loud. "Be sure to drink your Ovaltine." Now, Ovaltine was the sponsor of the Little Orphan Annie show. And so realization strikes Ralph, and his face drops, and he looks at the camera and goes, "A crummy commercial?" And so then he gets up, and he's like just slowly walks out of the bathroom with his head down, and the narrator says, "That day I became older and wiser." Now, that's a funny scene, but part of what makes that scene so funny is that it touches on something that's true. It touches on something that's true within the human experience. In some form or fashion, we've all had a Ralphie experience like that. And those kinds of experiences can, and very often do, make us wiser. Now, if you are new or visiting with us for the first time this morning, a very special welcome to you. We're very happy you're here. Let me just help you locate where we are. For the past few weeks, we have been in a sermon series in the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is one of the wisdom books in the Bible. Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, Song of Songs, the book of Job, all of these books are aimed at imparting to us wisdom. Now, wisdom in the biblical idea is all about living life well. It's not so much about knowing the information, it's about knowing what to do with the information. Or as one of my seminary professors likes to put it, wisdom is the art of godly living. So it's an art. It takes practice, okay? Now, each book has their own part to play, but Ecclesiastes, the way it fits into that bigger picture is that this book invites us to really grow up. It invites us to sit with, meditate on, chew on the more difficult, the more mature, the more existential, difficult realities of the world that we live in. It invites us to see the world for all of its complexities and nuances and its brokenness. And so, in the very first week, if you weren't here with us, in the very first week, the writer of Ecclesiastes, he names himself the preacher. It's almost certainly King Solomon. There's some debate on that. But the preacher starts off the whole book like this. Meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Why would he say such a thing? Well, his answer to that is because of death. It doesn't matter who you are or what your life is like, everybody dies. Whether you're rich or poor, whether you're righteous or wicked, whether you live a very luxurious lifestyle or a very humble and frugal lifestyle, it doesn't matter. Eventually, you're going to die. And there's no way of knowing what's going to happen in the world after you die. So human life feels pointless. And as the book has gone on, the preacher has built on and expanded this idea. Now, last week we got up to chapter 5 and we talked about chasing the golden dragon, where money promises to give us security and peace of mind. But no matter how much of it we get, it never quite delivers on its promise. This week, in chapter 6, the preacher brings in a related idea, something similar, but it is distinctly different. And it's something that he calls a great evil, something that weighs on us as human beings. What is it? Well, as you can tell from your sermon title, I have coined it as Anticlimax. Now, despite what you might think, Anticlimax is not a joke. It's not something to be taken lightly. Anticlimax is very serious. It has devastated countless people's lives. Anticlimax has ruined careers. It has ended marriages. It has split into businesses and organizations and even churches. Anticlimax is one of the primary reasons that people who have struggled with addictions in their lives have relapsed into addiction. Anticlimax has been the source of many, many suicides. And the worst part is that we as a culture don't talk about it. In fact, our culture is committed to the idea that Anticlimax is not real. We deny that it even exists. So if we are to be wise, we need to slow down, look at, and talk about this unpopular and honestly uncomfortable reality, lest we too fall victim to the devastation of Anticlimax. So, if you're a person that takes notes in order to organize your thinking, I have 3 questions this morning that are going to help structure our time together. 3 simple questions about Anticlimax. Question number 1, what is it? What is Anticlimax? That's number 1. Question number 2, why do we experience it? Where does this thing come from? Okay? Number 1 is what is it? Number 2 is why do we experience it? Number 3, what do we do with it? Okay? What do we do with Anticlimax? Okay? What is it? Why do we experience it? What do we do with it? 1, 2, 3. All right. First off, what is it? Well, what does the preacher say? Verse 2, the preacher tells us that it is when God gives to a person wealth, possessions, honor, everything that they desire, but he doesn't give the power to enjoy it. And then the preacher gives us this kind of extreme example to really highlight what he's talking about. And he says, imagine a man who fathers 100 children and lives many, many, many years and has all of these possessions. Right now we need to pause for a minute and do a little bit of explanation here. As modern people, we look at 100 children and go, oh my goodness, is this the homeschool family? What's wrong, right? We tend to, because of the advent of birth control, we see children as optional. And we tend to choose whether or not we have kids based upon our lifestyle choices. So most of us tend to go like 1, maybe 2. In the ancient world, it was very different. Birth control was not an option, so kids were not an option. And also, in the ancient mind, kids represented 2 very important things. Okay? 1, they represented free labor. Okay? I didn't say the ancient world was better than us. I just said they were different. Kids represented free labor. Okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, they represented legacy. And in traditional cultures, legacy is a big deal. Who are you going to pass on your wealth and possessions to? Okay, so in the ancient mind, a person, this man who has 100 kids, and again, ancient world, life expectancy is lower. He lives a long time, he has lots and lots of kids who are still alive. That would have been seen as an incredible achievement. This would have been a man of incredible status. Okay, so he's wealthy, he's got all of the things that the ancient world would have looked after, but what's the problem? He doesn't enjoy it. And, what does it say in verse 6? Not verse 6, verse 5. He has no burial. I'm sorry, not verse 5. That's verse 3. Sorry, guys. Verse 3. He has no burial. What does that mean? It means no one came to the funeral. Have any of you, whether you are in high school or you were in high school at one point, did you ever read the book The Great Gatsby? Or there was a movie also done a number of years ago with Leonardo DiCaprio. That's the image the preacher is giving us here. That here's a man who everybody looks at, and by every metric of success, this guy is killing it. Everybody thinks, he must be so happy. He's fantastically wealthy. He has everything he's ever wanted. Everybody likes him. He throws epic parties. This guy's got it all. But under the surface, he's totally miserable. And he dies alone. Now, I can see by the looks on some of your faces, you think, oh, well, this doesn't really apply to me. Because I am not fantastically wealthy, and I have definitely not gotten all that I have desired. Hold on. Before you go there, back up to verse 1. What does the preacher say? The preacher says that this weighs heavy on all of us. You can be not fantastically wealthy and still experience Anticlimax. Okay, the rich man is just an extreme example of it, but we can all experience it. How? Let me ask you this. Have you ever had a goal? Have you ever had something that you really wanted, that you were willing to work for and strive after? And it could have been any number of things. Maybe it was an experience. You wanted to run a half marathon. You wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail. You wanted to visit Paris, right? Or maybe it was more of a career goal. You wanted to go to grad school or get through college, or you wanted to get promoted within your company or become the head of your department. You wanted to get tenure, right? Something like that. Or maybe it was a financial goal. You wanted to save up and buy your dream house. You wanted to put your kids through college without any debt. You wanted to save up and buy the newest game system. I don't know, whatever the goal was, whether it's big or small or whatever it was, you had a goal, you worked for it, and then you got it. You got the thing you were working for, and it was great. For a while. You had the experience of you got the thing, and then when you were on the other side of it, there was this feeling of, oh, I guess that's it. Okay, I guess it's over then. Well, now what? There's this feeling of being a little bit let down. The way to really help us understand this is that you have to understand the language that the preacher uses. He uses 4 different verbs in our passage. 4 different verbs, but they all carry this connotation of eating. So the image is this, that you get the thing you were working for, but it doesn't quite fill you up. You're still a little bit hungry afterwards. You're still not totally satisfied. And I think this is very poignant at this time of year. I think many of us experience Anticlimax around the holidays because there's all of this anticipation for Christmas, isn't there? I mean, we've only been a couple weeks into December, and the lights are already going up, the music's already been playing, the decorations are coming out, and there's all of this buzz of promise. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And you have to put in all of this work. You have to select the presents. You have to buy the presents. You have to send out the cards. You have to go to the Christmas parties. You have to set up your travel plans or whatever, right? And then you finally get to the day, and Christmas morning comes, and you go, hey, we're all here, friends and family, whatever, and you come down, you open your presents, and oh, thanks, honey, I've always wanted a pair of socks. And it's when you eat the food, whatever your family does around Christmas, you go through the whole thing. And then at some point, somebody says, well, I guess it's time to clean up. And there's just this little bit of, oh, I guess that's it then. What is anticlimax? Anticlimax is when we get the thing that we've been working for, but it doesn't quite fill us up. It doesn't totally satisfy. Now that takes us to the second question, which is, why do we experience this? Why do we have this experience of anticlimax? Now, a very simplistic answer would be, oh, well, that's a problem of expectations. Right? That you just had unrealistic expectations. If your expectations are too high, yes, of course you're going to feel disappointed on the other side. And it would be easy to make that conclusion if you just kind of do a cursory reading of Ecclesiastes, because multiple times the preacher says that the best thing is for a person to work hard and then to eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor. So it would be easy to jump to that idea that, oh, it's just a problem of expectations. But like I said, that's a little too simplistic. It doesn't really account fully for the experience of anticlimax. And the preacher in our passage invites us to a deeper, richer understanding of where this comes from. Look with me in verse 7. The preacher says, all the toil of a person is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. Now, like many things that the preacher has said to us in Ecclesiastes, it would be easy to just blow past that verse and be like, oh, whatever. But if we go back to it and we think about it and we ponder it, it's a really profound statement. What is he saying? The preacher is saying that human beings were created to find satisfaction in our work. That we were created to find satisfaction in pouring our efforts into something. And the reason is that we are made in God's image. God himself, in Genesis chapter 1, takes 7 days, 7 chunks of time to create the whole universe. And with each stage, he speaks something into existence, but then he stops, he steps back, looks at it, and he calls it good. God himself finds delight, satisfaction in his work. And because we are made in his image, we too were made to find satisfaction in our work. But the world doesn't work the way it's supposed to anymore. And we find out in Genesis chapter 3 that the very first human beings broke the world. Adam and Eve, our parents, betrayed God. They violated their relationship with him by doing the one thing that God had asked them not to do. And towards the end of Genesis chapter 3, God confronts them. And he tells them, this is what the world is going to be like now that you have done this. And one of the primary things God has to tell them is, cursed is the ground because of you. The world is cursed. The whole world is cursed. Everything, everyone, everywhere is cursed. Now that does not mean that everything, everyone, everywhere is as bad as it could be. That is not what that is saying. What that means is that even when life is as good as it can be, it's still not as good as it should be. The world is cursed even when we have the best that life can offer. When we get the thing that we work for and we throw our energies at something and we experience success, it still leaves us hungry because the world doesn't work the way it's supposed to. What is anticlimax? Anticlimax is when we get the thing that we've been striving for, but it doesn't quite fill us up. We're still left a little bit hungry. Why do we experience anticlimax? We experience it because the world is cursed. And even when life is as good as it can be, it's still not as good as it should be. So that leads us to our last question, which is, what do we do? What do we do with anticlimax? Well, the preacher gives us this exaggerated example of the rich man, and he says in the second part of that first paragraph that this guy, it actually would be better to be a stillborn baby than this guy because he got everything and realized he was still miserable, and the baby has no idea what it desired. And so his whole point is this, that he's giving us this example to steer us away from what is the most common response to anticlimax. It is by far the most common response to anticlimax. And he names it in verse 9, where he says, it's better the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the appetite. So this wandering appetite is what he calls it. And somehow he contrasts that with seeing. So what does it mean to have this wandering appetite? What does he mean by that? Well, I think what he's getting at is this, that most of us, when we get the thing, And all right, and then we realize, oh, wait a minute, that didn't quite fill me up the way I thought it would. We don't stop. We go for the next thing. And we go for the next thing. And we go for the next thing. And we just keep consuming thing after thing after thing. And we think, oh, okay, well, half marathon, that was okay. Maybe a full marathon is what I really need. Or even better yet, an ultra marathon. Paris was great, but really I think the next thing, I need to go to Prague or Tokyo or Johannesburg. Or, I got the promotion, but really I think I want to start my own business. Or, the house has been great, but really what I think I need to do is buy the vacation house. And we just keep going, and we never stop, we never slow down, and we never look. And take the time to acknowledge to ourselves, I'm not as happy as I thought I would be. I'm not as full as I thought I would be. And listen, guys, we live in a culture that is committed to us having wandering appetites. We are bombarded with the message constantly that real soul-level satisfaction is just one purchase away. All you need is this brand of athleisure wear. All you need is to start using this brand of essential oils. Just adopt this diet. Just figure out this one life hack. Just adopt mindfulness meditation. Just take this if you could just find the right combination of things, then you will unlock the secret to satisfaction. And so we're busy all the time just trying to figure out what's the right combination, but we never get there because the world is cursed. And even when things are as good as they can be, they're not as good as they should be. And can we be honest with one another in this room this morning? I'm talking to the Christians in the room. Christians, we are complicit in this. There are so many of us, many of us, especially in America. We blast out, we broadcast this same message, but we just slap Jesus' name on it. We go, oh, you're unhappy? Well, the ingredient that you're missing is Jesus. Just come to Jesus. He'll fix your family. He'll fix your marriage. He'll fix your finances. He'll fix all of your work problems and all of your life problems, and He'll make everything better. And you'll be happy and satisfied. It will be so great. It's like Lego Movie Jesus. Everything is awesome. But that's not the true gospel. Jesus didn't promise to fix all the problems. Jesus didn't promise to fix all of the circumstances of your life. And when we promise people that, when we promote that false gospel, what we're inevitably doing is just setting them up to be severely disappointed. We're laying the groundwork for their future atheism. Jesus didn't promise to fix our life circumstances. Jesus promised things like suffering and persecution. He said things like, in this world, you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Now I can see on some of your faces, you're trying to get ahead of me, and you're like, okay, I see where you're going. Yet Jesus didn't promise to fix our circumstances because it's Him that is our satisfaction. I mean, He did say, come to me, all who thirst. He said, I am the bread of life. He told the Samaritan woman at the well, everybody that drinks from this water will thirst again, but the one who drinks the water that I give them will never thirst again. So the answer is that Jesus doesn't fix our circumstances in this life, but the satisfaction that we're looking for is being in a relationship with Him. That's where we find the satisfaction, right? Careful. Jesus did say those things. But we not only have to pay attention to what Jesus said and what He promised, we have to pay attention to His timeline. When did Jesus say He would make good on those promises? We actually don't see the fulfillment of those promises until Revelation chapter 21. Revelation is the very last book of the entire Bible. Chapter 21 is the second to last chapter in the last book of the entire Bible. And it's a vision of the end of history. Jesus has once and for all come back. He has brought judgment upon injustice and evil in the world. He has remade heaven and earth, and He's made everything the way exactly God intended it to be. And on that day, Jesus says, no longer will there be anything cursed. There will be no mourning or crying or pain. And to everyone who thirsts, I will give them the right to drink from the water of eternal life. But we are not living in Revelation chapter 21. We are living in the time before that chapter. We're left in the tension. The preacher doesn't fix the problem of anticlimax in our lives. Jesus has yet to fix the problem of anticlimax in our lives. So I'm not going to fix this problem for us. Instead, I'm going to pray. And after I pray, we're going to have some time of silence. And I want to invite all of you to look at your own life, to allow yourself to feel the hunger that we all have, the dissatisfaction with the way life is now. And then we're going to let that hunger take us to the Lord's table. What is anticlimax? Anticlimax is when we get the thing that we've been working for, but it doesn't quite fill us up. Why do we experience anticlimax? We experience it because the world is cursed. And even when life is as good as it could be, it's not as good as it should be. What do we do with anticlimax? We look at it. We don't let our appetites wander. And we wait for the day that Jesus comes back. Let me pray. Father, I ask in the precious name of your Son that you would work in us, your people, a holy dissatisfaction. Not that we would be people of complaint, not that we would be people who are just constantly malcontent, but rather that we would not be satisfied with the present order of reality. That we would be wise and we would see the world as it really is, cursed and longing, groaning for your day to come fully, Lord Jesus. Come, Lord Jesus. Come quickly. In your name I pray. Amen.